Welcome back to Bad Writing. My name is Joshua Fields Milburn. I'm an Emmy-nominated and New York Times best-selling author and a writing professor over at howtowritebetter.org. Today's example of bad writing comes from a very prolific author, a wonderful storyteller. However, I picked up this book when I was at the library recently, and the first page I flipped to was actually the beginning of chapter 2, and this is an example of bad writing. When you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Now, why is that bad writing? Well, because it's a cliche, obviously, right? That's one reason. Also, there's a misplaced modifier in this sentence. When you only have a hammer. I think what she meant is when you have only a hammer. And it's important to figure out, I teach this in my writing class to students, misplaced modifiers happen all the time in everyday colloquial language. Not a problem. We all understand what you mean. I even understand what you mean when you've written it here, so it's fine in a first draft. But you don't want your final product to have a misplaced modifier in it. It's like if you were to say, I only walk the dog. Well, that's the only thing I did. Or only I walk the dog. Okay, well, my wife wasn't with me. Or I walked only the dog. Okay, I didn't bring our pet giraffe, right? And so there are all of these different ways that we can change a sentence by simply changing the modifier in the sentence. But the bigger problem here is the cliche. When we use cliches as authors, what we do is we insult our audience. We say, you're not intelligent enough, or we're saying, I'm too lazy to find a more descriptive way to say what I want to say. Now, let's contrast that with some good writing. Today's example of good writing is from a book from my own personal collection. I have a small collection of books at home. I prefer to go to the library when I can. Have you been to the library recently, by the way? They just give you stuff for free. And you can just have the books and they let you take them home, or ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, DVDs, if you have a DVD player. Anyway, they give you stuff for free and you can hang out there. They even have Wi-Fi at my local library. It's amazing. And in fact, I brought a stack of books to the counter and I said, hey, I'd like to check these out. And they said, great. I said, when do I have to bring them back? They're like, if you could bring them back in 3 weeks, that'd be fine. I said, what if I don't? What's the late fee? They said, oh, we don't do late fees anymore. I said, so I can keep the stack of books as long as I want? They're like, yeah, but we just trust you to return it. I said, well, what if I lose it? Well, then we'll just charge you a little fee if you lose it. So what if I can't pay that fee? Well, then we'll just talk about it. Okay, great. So books are free now. Not this one. I actually paid for this book. It's called Bark. It's by Lori Moore. She is one of the true greats, one of the great American writers. And this is a short story collection. And when you open it up to the first page, you get sucked in right away. Ira had been divorced 6 months and still couldn't get his wedding ring off. Now, we know what that means literally, but there's also a metaphor here. It's not a cliche. There was a metaphor in Jodi Picoult's book as well, The Hammer and the Nail. We've all heard it a million times. But he'd been divorced for 6 months. The metaphor here is he couldn't let go of the past. Maybe he could get his wedding ring off, but the residue of the past still stuck with him. You're introduced to a main character. You're submerged into his discontent, into his sort of relationship dysphoria, and you want to know more about this main character and what's going on in his life, because he's facing some sort of major life change. Maybe it's even a crisis in his life. We've all gone through these crises, and we can see ourselves in these characters. That is an example of good writing. By the way, if you want 15 more writing tips, I have a free book you can download. It's called 15 Ways to Write Better over at howtowritebetter.org. You can download it today and walk away with 15 tips that will improve your writing within an hour of reading it.